Some secrets are small, a forgotten receipt, a private message, a hidden bank account. But some secrets are big enough to break a life in two. This is the story of a man who loved, lied, and lived two lives, until the day his carefully built world began to fall apart. A story that shows how one decision, made in silence, can echo for years. In a small, peaceful town, there lived a man named Imran. He was well known in his community, a polite shop owner, a caring father, and a husband who, to all appearances, adored his wife, Aisha. They had been married for over 15 years, with 2 children who brought joy and laughter to their modest home. People saw them as the perfect family. Imran would walk his children to school, buy flowers for Aisha on special occasions, and never raised his voice in public. But behind his gentle smile, something was brewing. Something Aisha could not imagine. 2 years before our story begins, Imran traveled to another city for business. There, he met a woman named Sana, younger, lively, and struggling with her own broken dreams. They spoke at first as strangers, then as friends, and eventually, something more began to grow. Imran told Sana he was single. He did not mention Aisha. He promised her stability, companionship, and a future. And soon, he married her, quietly, without telling anyone back home. In the eyes of the law, it was legal in his country. In the eyes of morality, that was another matter. Sana moved into a small rented apartment in her city, believing she was his only love. For a while, Imran managed to keep both lives separate. When he was with Aisha, he spoke of work trips and supplier meetings. When he was with Sana, he talked about business pressures and why they couldn't move to his hometown yet. He kept 2 phones, one for family, one for Sana. 2 sets of bank accounts. 2 stories, 2 truths. But living 2 lives meant living with constant fear. Every unexpected phone call, every unplanned visitor, every delayed train, could be the end of his secret. It began with small things. One day, Aisha found an unfamiliar receipt in his trouser pocket, a jewelry purchase she had never received. Another time, their son picked up one of his phones by mistake, and a message popped up, "Miss you already. When will you be back?" Imran brushed it off. The jewelry? A gift for a business associate. The message? A wrong number. Aisha wanted to believe him. She trusted her husband. But deep inside, a seed of doubt began to grow. One afternoon, Aisha decided to surprise Imran by visiting him during one of his so-called business trips. She packed some homemade food, thinking he would be delighted. She called his number, no answer. She tried again. Still nothing. When she reached the address he had once mentioned vaguely, she saw something that made her blood run cold. Through the window of a modest apartment, she saw Imran, laughing and eating with another woman, a woman wearing a ring that looked exactly like hers. She froze. Time seemed to stop. The truth she never wanted to know was right in front of her. Aisha didn't knock. She didn't scream. She turned and walked away, her heart pounding so loud it drowned out the city noise. That night, she said nothing. She served dinner to her children, cleaned the dishes, and went to bed, eyes wide open in the dark. For the first time in her marriage, she looked at Imran and realized she didn't really know the man beside her. Her world was no longer perfect. It was a carefully painted picture, now covered in cracks. What would Aisha do next? Would she confront him, or keep silent for the sake of her children? And what about Sanaa, the second wife, who believed she was the only one? The truth was now out, but the storm had only just begun. A lie can live for years, but it cannot live forever. Sooner or later, truth finds its way to light, and when it does, it changes everything. After that afternoon, Aisha's world moved in slow motion. She went through her daily routine, making breakfast, preparing school lunches, greeting neighbors, but her heart felt heavy, as if someone had tied a stone to it. At night, she lay awake, staring at the ceiling. She remembered every moment of their 15 years together, the shared dreams, the struggles they overcame, the promises he had made. Now, every memory felt like a scene from a movie she no longer believed in. She didn't confront Imran immediately. Not because she didn't want to, but because she didn't yet know how to. The next week, while Imran was away again, Aisha quietly began gathering pieces of the puzzle. She checked his drawers, his papers, and his phone records. She found regular money transfers to a woman named S. Khan. She found photographs of a wedding she had never attended, a wedding where her husband was the groom. Her hands trembled as she held the evidence. It was no longer suspicion. It was fact. That Friday evening, when Imran came home, Aisha was waiting in the living room. The children were at their grandparents' house. The lights were dim, the air tense. "Who is Sanaa?" she asked quietly. Imran froze. His eyes widened, his lips parted, but no words came out. "I saw you," Aisha continued, her voice trembling but steady. "I saw you in that apartment. I know about the second marriage." For a moment, the only sound was the ticking of the wall clock. Then Imran sighed heavily and sat down. "It's not what you think," he began. "Not what I think," she interrupted. "You married another woman and hid it from me for 2 years. How many different ways am I supposed to think about that?" Imran tried to explain. He said Sanaa was lonely, that she needed help, that he thought he could take care of both women without hurting anyone. He spoke about cultural norms, about legal permission, about responsibilities. But every word sounded hollow. Because the real wound was not the marriage itself, it was the deception. "You didn't give me a choice," Aisha said, tears streaming down her face. "You built our life on trust, and then you broke it with your silence." The next day, Aisha made a decision that would change everything. She went to see Sanaa. When Sanaa opened the door, she was surprised to see a stranger, a woman who carried herself with quiet strength despite the pain in her eyes. Aisha introduced herself. And in that moment, Sanaa's world shattered too. She had no idea Imran was already married. She sank into a chair, her face pale. He told me I was the only one," she whispered. 2 women, both betrayed in different ways, sat across from each other in silence. They didn't argue. They didn't blame each other. The blame belonged elsewhere. When Sanaa confronted Imran later, he realized there was no more hiding. His 2 worlds had collided, and the impact had destroyed them both. Aisha no longer trusted him. Sanaa no longer believed in him. His children began to notice the tension at home. They didn't understand the details, but they felt the cold distance between their parents. After weeks of painful conversations, Aisha decided she could not live with someone who had lied so deeply. She chose to separate, for her own dignity and peace of mind. Sanaa also left him, unwilling to stay in a marriage built on lies. Imran found himself alone, not because he loved 2 women, but because he was not honest with either. Months later, Aisha stood by the window of her new home, watching the sunset. Her life was quieter now, but also lighter. She had faced heartbreak, but she had also found strength she never knew she had. Sana rebuilt her life too, focusing on her own dreams instead of waiting for promises that might never come. And Imran, he still ran his shop in the small town, but the warm smiles from neighbors had faded into polite nods. The cost of his secrecy was more than he had ever imagined. This story is not just about betrayal. It's about the truth we owe to those we claim to love. Love without honesty is just an illusion. A second marriage was not what destroyed Imran's family, it was the hidden nature of it. Moral: trust is like glass. Once shattered, it can never return to its original form. No relationship, no matter how strong, can survive in the shadow of a lie.